The Shadow Protocol, a Cold War thriller. The rain fell hard over Washington, D.C. the night the scientist vanished. The city was half asleep, the streets glistening under the jaundiced glow of sodium lamps. A black Lincoln Continental rolled slowly down Massachusetts Avenue, its wipers sweeping furiously against the downpour. Inside, a man in his 50s sat stiffly behind the wheel. His name was Dr. Alan Brookhaven, a physicist whose name appeared on no government registry, but whose fingerprints were sealed in a vault under the Pentagon. He had spent the last 12 years developing something the government refused to admit existed, a satellite array capable of intercepting Soviet radio transmissions from space. Project name, Echelon 1. It was buried under layers of classified clearance, known only to a handful of defense officials. Brookhaven wasn't supposed to leave Fort Meade without escort, yet tonight he drove alone, glancing into his rearview mirror every few seconds. He had the look of a man being hunted. A blue sedan had followed him since he left the compound, too close, headlights low. He told himself it was coincidence, but then, as he passed the darkened entrance of the Smithsonian, the sedan's lights flared brighter. Brookhaven's knuckles whitened. He pressed harder on the accelerator. He turned right on Constitution Avenue. The sedan turned too. Then came the sound, the sharp crack of a gunshot, muffled by the storm but unmistakable. The back window of his Lincoln exploded. Brookhaven swerved, heart hammering. He reached into his briefcase not for a weapon, but for a cassette tape, labeled only with 3 numbers, 2047. The tape contained data from the satellite's final test, raw intercepts of a Soviet broadcast he couldn't yet decipher. But someone, somewhere, wanted it badly enough to kill for it. Another shot shattered the side mirror. The scientist veered off the road, crashed through a fence, and careened into a dark service alley behind the Library of Congress. The engine sputtered, hissed, died. He stumbled out, clutching the tape to his chest. A man in a trench coat appeared behind him, face obscured by the rain. "Dr. Brookhaven," he said calmly, "you shouldn't have left the facility." Brookhaven froze. He recognized the voice. "You're not supposed to be here," he stammered. "Neither are you," the man replied. The flash of a silenced pistol lit up the alley. By the time the D.C. police found the body, the rain had washed most of the blood away. The only thing missing from the scene was the tape. Langley, Virginia, 2 hours later. A red phone rang in a dark office at CIA headquarters. Deputy Director Thomas Hale, a former naval intelligence officer turned bureaucratic wolf, answered on the first ring. His office was sterile, except for a model U-2 spy plane and a photo of President Kennedy on the wall. He'd built his career on paranoia, the art of predicting betrayal before it happened. "Brookhaven's dead," the voice on the other end said. "Local police confirmed it." Hale leaned back. "Cause?" "Gunshot, close range. Whoever did it knew what they were doing. And the prototype data tape, gone." Hale's jaw tightened. "God damn it. Does defense know?" "Not yet. We can't risk a leak. We think it's internal." Internal. That word froze Hale more than any Soviet threat ever could. The agency was infested with suspicion. Double agents were a cancer nobody could cut out. And now a top-secret tape containing the country's most advanced intercept data had vanished into thin air, possibly into enemy hands. "Put a team together," Hale said coldly. "I want someone who doesn't owe favors to anyone in this building." The next morning, Quantico, Virginia. Special Agent Evelyn Hart was running laps through the mist when her pager buzzed. She stopped mid-stride, catching her breath. The message was short. "Langley, immediate briefing, D.D. Hale." Hart wasn't used to being summoned to the CIA. She was FBI, Counterintelligence Division. Tough, sharp-minded, and with a reputation for chasing ghosts no one else believed in. The last case she closed exposed a Soviet courier ring operating out of a Maryland university. It earned her a commendation and the quiet resentment of half her peers. 2 hours later, she was sitting across from Hale in a glass-walled conference room at Langley. Dr. Alan Brookhaven, Hale began, sliding a photograph across the table. Murdered last night. No witnesses. Classified research project. We believe the motive is espionage. Hart studied the photo. Defense project? She asked. Technically, yes, but we shared oversight. The problem is, Brookhaven wasn't authorized to leave the compound. He had something with him, a tape. What kind of tape? Hale hesitated. Intercept data from a satellite array. The signal contained a Soviet transmission. Our analysts haven't decoded it yet. Now it's missing. So you want me to find it, Hart said. I want you to find whoever killed him. The tape will follow. Hart tapped her pen on the table. You think this was an inside job? I know it was, Hale said. Brookhaven's security clearance log was falsified. Someone in the system gave him permission to leave. Someone who knew what he was carrying. Hart's instincts hummed. Who else knew about this project? Hale exhaled slowly. Fewer than a dozen people, including me. By the afternoon, Hart stood at the scene of the murder. The alley behind the Library of Congress was cordoned off, rainwater still dripping from the fire escape. She crouched beside the Lincoln, now covered in evidence markers. She noticed something odd. The briefcase was gone, but a small magnetic strip, barely visible under the dashboard, had been pried loose. It wasn't part of the car. It was a tracking beacon. Someone had followed Brookhaven deliberately. "Ma'am," an officer called out, holding up a soggy envelope. "Found this in the gutter. Looks like it was dropped." Hart opened it carefully. Inside was a single photograph, a grainy black-and-white surveillance shot of a man boarding a train in Baltimore, dated the same day Brookhaven died. The back of the photo had a note written in blue ink. They know about the signal. Hart frowned. Who the hell is they? By nightfall, the autopsy report arrived. Brookhaven had been shot twice, once in the chest, once in the shoulder, both from close range. No fingerprints, no shell casings. But the medical examiner noted something strange. Inside his jacket pocket was a key, a small brass locker key with an engraving. Union Station 314B. Hart knew what that meant. Within an hour, she was walking through the marble halls of Union Station, the echoes of her heels blending with the sound of trains departing. Locker 314B was halfway down the east wing. She hesitated, then turned the key. Inside was a small cassette player and a note. If you're reading this, I'm dead. The transmission wasn't Soviet. It came from us. A.B. Her pulse quickened. She slid the tape inside, pressed play. A burst of static filled the player, then a voice, faint, distorted, mechanical, but the words were in English. Operation Shadow Protocol initiated. Directive pending authorization. Containment Priority 1. Then silence. Hart froze. The tape wasn't evidence of Soviet espionage. It was proof of a covert American operation, hidden even from the CIA. And someone had told Brookhaven to keep it secret. That night, as Evelyn Hart drove back toward Langley, she couldn't shake the feeling she was being followed. A pair of headlights appeared behind her in the mirror. Too close. She slowed. The car slowed too. Her pulse spiked. The rain began again, tapping like Morse code on the windshield. She turned onto a side road, leading toward an industrial district. The car stayed with her. She reached for her revolver, eyes flicking between the road and the mirror. Then, without warning, the headlights vanished.
Gone. Only darkness behind her. She pulled to the side, breathing hard, scanning the night. Nothing but empty road and the hum of distant traffic. She reached for the cassette tape again. The message repeated, distorted and haunting. Operation Shadow Protocol initiated. Directive pending authorization. Containment Priority 1. Something deep in her gut told her, whatever Shadow Protocol was, it hadn't ended. It had just begun.